That is where I reach to the bottom of my heart to give you my sincerest gratitude for allowing me the privilege of hosting you for another Tuesday afternoon of information and enlightenment, naturally deliciously flavored by Armstrong ice cream. And yes, beloved, I am remembering to remind you, whether you say the Spanish way, 3.5, or the Danish way, 3.5, but we all prefer the Crucian way, which is 3:30. That is when the lady I just referred to as the general, beautiful Aisha, just take center stage. And she just instruct me to ask you, my beloved audience, a crucial history question. For the correct answer, beautiful Aisha will compliment you a full quart of your favorite flavor of Armstrong ice cream. Yes, beloved, I say it every time. That is something you can beat, not even with a black water stick. Here we is, December 2025, and we are getting ready for, to do our thing as only them and those of us who call this our home, only them and those of us know what we look forward to as the season. Yes, beloved, this the season. But as we look forward to it, prepare for it, I want to once again do what you expect of me, which is to share some enlightening information. Beloved, I would like to kind of guide your consciousness to a period that was 100 years ago. 100 years ago today. Beloved, it was not anything like today. Not at all. Matter of fact, in 1928, we had whatever those who are still alive would recall as the Gale of 28. The gale of 28. Beloved, I cannot give you the story as to why, how, or when, but we did not refer to these tremendous natural disasters as hurricanes. No, we did not call them hurricanes. We call them gales. So when we refer to the gale of 28, yes, beloved, we're talking about the disaster of a hurricane that flattened this 84 square mile island of St. Croix as it has never been struck since. Yes, I know. I should have known like this. 8 years ago, we were struck by what they call two category 5 hurricanes. But yet, from my readings, because even though I was born in the 1930s, beloved, I only learned about the gale of 28 by word of mouth and what I have been able to read since then. Because unfortunately, beloved, there is not much written history about our people or our islands. So there is just so much, and I mean so much, that we know so little about. Like, for instance, beloved, how much do we learn about the fact that in 1916, the United States of America occupied Haiti and put the US Marines in charge. A year later, 1917, the United States occupied the Dominican Republic and put the US Marines in charge. And yes, March 31st of that same year of 1917, the United States of America took over this island from the Danish West Indies and had it occupied like Haiti, like the Dominican Republic, by the U.S. Marines for the next 14 years. So yes, beloved, 100 years ago today, this island would have been under military occupation by the U.S. Marines. And in case you have not been so informed, let me point out to you that in 1925, there was no such thing as a U.S. Marine that looked anything like you or me. Yes, the U.S. Armed Forces was strictly very much racially defined as a white institution. Maybe that is one of the reasons why we know next to nothing about our home. And we're specifically talking about the 84 square miles called the island of St. Croix. Maybe that's specifically why we know so little about our homeland 100 years ago when it was racially, militarily occupied by the U.S. Marines. Beloved, it is most unfortunate that the good for nothing misleaders who we have elected to govern us has chosen to perhaps curry favor, perhaps just to be obedient and servile, whatever the actual reason. Them and those I call our good for nothing misleaders have chosen for us not to be informed about the history of our homeland, our ancestors, and the brutal history of military occupation that dominated what used to be the Danish West Indies, and as of March 31st, 1917, became the Virgin Islands of the United States of America. And yes, beloved, for 14 years, 1-4, for 14 years after that transfer from the Danes to the Americans, we were under military occupation for 14 continuous years. until 1931. Yes, in 1931, we were finally relieved from the racist military occupation of the U.S. Marines. Why we are inflamed so miserly, not even miserly, because, beloved, if we had been miserly inflamed, we would know we were military occupied. But to say it was miserly inflamed is being generous. Beloved, I dare say that much of what I have spoken to over the last 10 minutes or so here, the overwhelming majority of you don't know. You probably hear it for the first time. And yet, beloved, 100 years ago, this was a time when the agricultural economy of this 84 square mile island was literally collapsing. Our island was experiencing depression even before the 1929 stock market collapse, when, as the narrative goes, the world went into recession. Well, beloved, 4 years before that, 1925, we were already in recession. A thing called prohibition was a law passed in the United States that prohibited the distillation, sale, consumption of alcoholic beverages, liquor. Prohibition was a major, and I mean major, strike against the sugar cane centered economy of this 84 square mile island. The price of sugar collapsed, and with it, one after the other of what we call the sugarcane factories on this island of St. Croix went bankrupt. At the time, the largest and most productive sugarcane factory was located at the area we today know as Lower Love, which would be between where the Department of Agriculture is now operated and where the market, formerly known as Plaza Extra West, is located. Beloved, that area known as Lower Love was the largest and most productive sugarcane factory in St. Croix 100 years ago. It was operated by a man known here as Captain Blackwood. Captain Blackwood had him a grand palatial great house in what is today the campus of the St. Croix University of the Virgin Islands. And that entrance you see to the St. Croix campus is lined by royal palms. That was the entrance to Captain Blackwood's great estate, and he operated the Lower Love sugarcane factory that 100 years ago was the biggest factory we had on the island of St. Croix. But beloved, I urge you, as I have had to do over the past few days, when I was reflecting on these things, because beloved, I was fortunate to celebrate my 86th birthday a couple of days ago. And I had more than enough reason to reflect on all of these things. And beloved, it was not pleasant. Fortunately, I could reach in my freezer and lick some cream. So I give thanks to Cedric Absam, CEO of Absam Ice Cream, because, beloved, I'm going to tell you, when stress hits you, lick your cream, because Absam Ice Cream is just so good for your soul. We're back, beloved, and I guess we could say we're back to 1925 because we have been made to be so ignorant of our history, the pain and suffering of our ancestors, that, beloved, it would not be hyperbolic to call it criminal neglect. That, beloved, 100 years later, we just simply know next to nothing about our own history. And it's shameful, but that's where we are. And I am sharing real history. This is not a narrative that I'm making up. Good afternoon to you.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Morris.
And to you, man. Welcome.
Well, yes, welcome in the health and strength and wealth and the day of coming forth.
Give thanks. Give thanks for that.
Yeah. That's a blessed number, man. I think my mother would have been on the same age as you.
Yes, I'm still here in the struggle, and I give thanks for that, my son. But
You got it. Most importantly, that mental faculty, that's a blessing, where you could basically recall a lot of history and current events. That's remarkable. Whatever you're doing, continue. But
thank you.
Mr. Mohammed,
Still Mario, man. It's still Mario.
no man, I respect. Other people are uncomfortable calling you, but like I said, you would have been young the age of my mother, and that was my bringing up. But anyway, right?
Uh,
Sorry to break in your son of stars, but
no, man. Hey, this is, between you and I, and as I always say, this is no one-way street. I give you the information and enlightenment that I have, and you don't realize it, but you don't give me enlightening information. You understand? So we are learning, and most
right.
importantly, we are pushing back against what the good for misleaders want us to come an inferior people to these colonizers in Washington D.C. I mean, you tell me, why would somebody want to be our governor, our delegate to Congress, our senator, but at the same time they don't want us to know who we be?
But I want to bring something to your attention and maybe just say my party shed a little light on why probably we need a standardized or a correlation of those historical practices. What about the actual historical question last week? I
Uh,
really remember that. You,
what about government house?
yes, you readily recall it?
But I came, yes, and I was 100 years ago today. You or I could not go into government house.
And wait, that was just for the American occupation, or that's the total history of the Danish and the US combined.
That, to the very best of my knowledge, that was everything
The
combined.
totality of the history.
That was the totality of the
Well,
history,
this is
you know.
why this is where I kind of find like I think incongruity or discrepancy within the record. And you said that the information that you collected from, I think, the Emancipator or the Living, which one of those articles that you, I think I heard you mention an article periodical, and whether it is the Emancipator or some,
Well, the thing about that particular for last week was the Emancipator. That was the newspaper. That was the newspaper that was published by Rachel Francis out of St. Thomas.
and the information is just for the other form.
That particular, yes, that particular thing about the.
I don't know, Mr. Morris, you are aware, guys, you're aware, extensively in terms of the history, more particularly in the history, Bosnian history,
Yeah.
and more particularly in St. Croix, but
Yeah.
I recall, and that's why I gave you an answer like 1827, right?
Uh-huh.
Because I recall from previous reading that Governor Van Shelton had made efforts to basically organize, I guess you're familiar with the Free Negro Corps or militia, where he had divided them into two, and then their grand forces, citizenship, and so forth.
They call it the Brand Corps.
Say that again?
The Brand Corps is what the militia was called.
I'm getting the part that you're saying the grand.
BRANDT.
For black,
Brand. Like something new brand, like a new brand shirt, a new brand pants, a new brand car.
okay.
Brand.
What about that?
That was what the militia of local free Negroes was called.
Okay. I was not aware of that particular name.
Yeah.
In terms of like, the question was like until 1930, well, 1932, 34, I think the answer was that all shapes, that's it, and the word, I think it's
All shades are accepted in Government House.
and that's where there's a kind of like,
Well, let me help you a little bit here. Let me help you a little bit. Like for instance, David Hamilton Jackson, again, that was one of the reasons why, even though he had done like all the others who learned anything here, did it by correspondence. He actually went to Indiana to get his law degree because he was not allowed to enter Government House. You see, D.C. Candidator was allowed because he was a medical doctor. They had qualifications that allowed for what we call black people, to enter. But it was such qualification that, up until David Hamilton Jackson, when I got his degree and came back in 1922, the only person of color that had been in Government House was D.C. Candidator. How was it?
I caught the last person.
Well, where I lose you?
Something after David Hamilton come from, I think, I guess overseas that
He went to Indiana to get his law degree. This was when he was then, elected to the Colonial Council in 1922. And I'm saying to you that tells you that it is only certain qualifications that allow for people who look like you and I to enter Government House. And that what I said and you missed is that David
But
Hammett.
yes, I heard that. But let me ask you, you never read in all of your reading with Von Shelton when he, I guess, a delegation of free, colored or free Negro went to basically Copenhagen to request certain, I guess, concessions from I guess the king, which would have been I guess was Frederick the Sixth, King Frederick the Sixth, and he had basically kind of reprimanded them for basically leaving the island and going there. But anyway, after that, he had basically made a plan along with Governor General Von Shelton to basically grant citizenship and certain equality of treatment to those, I guess, colored and free Negro, particularly those like within the militia, that group,
The militia.
the militia. Yeah, and they were, a matter of fact, it seemed like at that time they had those white wasn't accepting of that change of status. So they were basically kind of ill, ill, I guess, ill
Well,
towards towards it. So the general, according to the book I am familiar with, he basically in conciliatory fashion of events like hold like social functions at the government house and dinner, common dinner to basically bring the two.
well, again, and you know, I don't know enough that I'm cutting you short, but a lot of that is bogus. You know, I'm familiar with the Reggie talk about that is bogus. You know, and there were no Negro citizens, none, including Anahegai.
Well, that's where in terms of the same not teaching registry, there has to be like a correlation of these different events of fact and see what is legitimately
Well,
historical, what is factual.
I agree with you, but again, that's on the people who elect to run the government. So the question is on them. Why is it that they don't want us to know our own history? But I'm cutting you short because
Yes,
we're getting a lot of call people trying to get in.
okay.
You know, I can't let you
All right.
dominate everything, you know. So
All right.
you go call back.
You're like a criminal, right?
Give thanks for that, man. Give
All right.
thanks. Yes, sir. All right. Well, I think I end up uh, messing up here now. But at any rate, beloved, what we what we're trying to establish is that well, there was no entry of people of color into government house. They just simply weren't. You know, I would like to be able to share with you exactly what the qualifications were, but I know that DC Canegata was allowed to, and David Hamilton Jackson was not allowed to until he went to Indiana and got a law degree. Oh, Australia now. Let me send this call. Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon, Mario.
Yes, man. Welcome.
Um, Happy belated, man.
Give thanks for that, man. Give thanks.
Yeah, but the last exchange with the last caller, I could have hardly hear what he said, you know what I mean? And I'm trying to call the other number.
Oh, okay. Well, he was having. I could have hear him good, but apparently
Yeah, I know.
he had problems hearing me, and it looked like the audience had problems hearing me too. So
Yeah,
sorry about that. But again, you know how it is with these phone companies or Sunday. They know how to collect their bills, but they know how to give service at all, and we have to
but
put up with it.
Josh is in the building.
Apparently not.
Yeah, because last week it was happening to the beginning of the show. But
Yeah.
I called him and he do something and he came back up, you know.
Yeah.
So I was trying to call to while that exchange was going on because he was got a good perspective and things, you know what I mean, that last caller.
Yeah.
But anyhow, when he come, he tell you the problem and maybe he might be able to fix it.
Yeah. Well, we hear again, just trying to share with you, man, that 100 years ago was a very, very different time here for our ancestors on this island of St. Croix. And still can't give you any reasonable explanation as to why it is that the people we elect as governor, we elect as delegate to Congress, we elect as senators, why it is that they don't want us to know who we be. And somehow or other, they don't think that this has any effect on our young people who don't have any identity. All they know is that if they got a gun, they could demand things that things that they couldn't have if they didn't have the gun.
Yeah, but the people in the government, the historical knowledge is limited, you know, Mario, so they don't know what to you know what I mean?
Yes, but that's why we elected so that they could use the money that we pay in taxes, just like how you use the money to build a road, use the money to build a school, use the money to build a hospital. You can't use the money to teach us our history.
Yeah,
So that you yourself could learn it, or you could yourself could learn it too.
Right.
I mean,
anyhow, when Josh comes in, see people turn up the volume and the phone call them, and you know.
I will do my best.
Yeah, and carry on the guys are listening attentively.
A good thing, but okay. All right.
Yeah, man.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon. What's that thing the other side? Good afternoon. What's that thing the other side? Hey. But the college pointed out that things ain't going too good at all. Yeah, I don't know. Good afternoon.
Yes, sir, good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you. You hear me all right?
Yeah, I'm hearing you loud and clear.
Oh, well, good. Because we're getting reports that the telephone conversation is not being properly received.
Okay.
So I'm glad to hear that this is good. So talk to me, man, and listen to you.
Yeah, the only problem I have right now is that I wasn't listening because I can't. I don't know, it could be the bad weather. I'm on the freeway driving from Tampa back to West Palm Beach. So it's a lot of rain and bad weather. So I just couldn't pick up the station at all.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, I continue to be concerned, Mario, about how our children are being, dumbed down. They're being all type of situations coming against them that's preventing them from learning. And I speak specifically, and I don't know what it is with the counties and cities in Florida, but every day, Mario, every day, when they are teachers, there's a counselor, there's a principal, there's a minister molesting the children. The children don't want to go to school, they're scared. I mean, it got to where now a group of men are going to be taking the law in their own hands and they're going to be exacted with justice. But if there's not enough police to patrol the schools and look out for these good productive thinking man, then the fathers and uncles and grandfathers and brothers don't have to do it. It's really sad. I mean, when you and I went to school, Mario, I mean, it's never think and nothing like this. How we used to think about is getting to school and learning. So they are trying, looking around, they're walking, they're looking, they're running, they're scared. They don't want to leave home no more. But a lot of people say, you know, and they say, hey, Mario, the thing that has called me, some of us that we thought no better would come up with something like this. LGBTQ alone doing it. Married man doing it too. I don't give a flying that you doing it. It shouldn't be done. So you're telling me this is the straight man doing it too. But what you're telling me? But you see what I find out now here? What? For yet and until it hits close to them, with them the one of their children, grandchildren, great grandchild. Hopefully, and maybe then they will overstand. But they're not understanding now. You know, and it's really, really sad. Anyway, I will go and leave you with that for now. I'll continue trying to reach the stage so I can be listening.
Okay, well, I hope you get through. That's all I could ever say.
Yes, I'll continue to try.
Thank you, thank you.
Yes, I. Okay.
Drive safe now.
Right, thank you.
Yes, beloved. We've been trying to make you aware of how different things were 100 years ago today, and that for one thing, we have not been made aware of the reality that we're under military occupation, and that according to the United States and the records that I have been fortunate enough to read, this was all done in keeping with the doctrine we call the Monroe Doctrine of 1823, which basically says that the Western Hemisphere is supposed to be controlled by the United States of America and no other European nation should be allowed to interfere or to have any influence whatsoever in the Western Hemisphere. And this is where the terminology and the narrative comes up to say that, hey, the Caribbean and Central and South America are considered the backyard of the United States of America. Well, beloved, it is this doctrine, this principle that was in play when 100 years ago, the United States was making all of these, well, precautionary moves because of the influence that they saw the Germans were getting in what America considers to be their backyard. And so in 1916, the United States occupied Haiti. And then the next year, they occupied the Dominican Republic. And also that year, they occupied what had been the Danish West Indies, and it became the Virgin Islands of the United States. And it was only then that the United States, under Woodrow Wilson, a very racist president in himself, but it was only then that President Woodrow Wilson declared war against Germany in the interest of protecting democracy. This is how the narrative went. But the last day of March, the 31st of March, 1917, was the day that the Danish West Indies became the Virgin Islands of the United States. And within either 3 or 4 weeks, but the very next month, April of 1917, is when now the United States felt that they had made the necessary moves to allow them to declare war against Germany, because they now were able to control the harbor of Charlotte Amalia, that they were very concerned that the Germans were going to be controlling, and well, they couldn't allow that. But it was all about keeping the Germans out of the Western Hemisphere, as the Monroe Doctrine dictated. And so the US Marines were instructed to occupy Haiti, the Dominican Republic, and the Virgin Islands. And yes, beloved, we were occupied for 14 years. 14 years. Good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Moore.
Good afternoon. Welcome.
The Monroe Doctrine
Yes, sir.
I think you mentioned it's 1820 something.
1823, if I remember correctly.
Well, help me to understand.
Yes.
Okay, right? Sorry, what about the laws of nations that basically are supposed to govern these European nations? What role did that play in terms of, because in terms of having possession within the Caribbean, say of the United States, that only happened in 18, when was the Spanish American War? In 1890 something?
1898.
So what grounds other than aggression of force in
Yeah.
the Monroe Doctrine, what principle it was based upon other than force?
Then the principle of force, uh, I think at some point, it might have been months ago, I asked a question, one of the crucial history questions, as to uh, what made the purchase of St. Croix such a unique transaction. And the answer was, right to what you're asking, is that St. Croix was the first island to be exchanged by purchase rather than conquest. Up until then, all the territory that had been taken over in the Caribbean was by conquest. This,
Well, if I could ask you,
yeah.
what about those colonial power like England and France and England,
Well, that's
that had possession within the Caribbean? How did they function within?
well, that's just it. I don't know if you are familiar, but after uh, the Christopher Columbus voyage to what they call the New World, uh, Pope Alexander divided the world.
That would be the sixth or the fourth.
Alexander the Sixth, Pope Alexander the Sixth,
Okay.
divided the world in two parts, and this is uh, why you find that Brazil sticks out in South America because the treaty of what they call Tordesillas.
Did that come for the being Portuguese? Because how it's circumference with the line?
Right. And I say that to say to you that from that line going eastward, Pope Alexander declared that to be Portuguese. And from that line, following westward, Spain. You see, because Alexander was of Iberian extraction. Iberia is the peninsula where Spain and okay, well, good you. Well, so that he divided the world between his compatriots, Spain and Portugal. So now, what you got to remember now is that, with the exception of the Portuguese Brazil, everything to the west of the line belonged to Spain.
Right.
Now, what happened is that Spain was interested in precious metals, gold
Yeah,
and
gold.
silver,
Right.
right? Whereas,
Focus on the bigger, the larger
right.
island.
Matter of fact, the terminology came from Eric Williams. What's the name of his book now? God, I can't remember. But the Prime Minister of Trinidad wrote this book.
Okay, Eric.
So Eric Williams is his name.
It came before Columbus, something like that?
No. That's they came before Columbus. Is a guy from Guyana. Wrote that book.
Capitalism and slavery?
Yes, 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 yes. That's Eric Williams. Yes, yes, Captain Elizabeth. Well, here is what he quoted the French as saying, you know, that he would like to see Adam's will that donated the world to Spain and France, to Spain and Portugal. And they did this in terms because all of Europe started renouncing the Vatican.
Right, right.
This was the attempt to now be able to go up against Spain, taking away, territory after territory. So this is why when it came to St. Croix, you could be able to say that this was the first island that exchanged hands by purchase rather than by conquest, because all the others had to be conquered from Spain. That the Vatican, through Alexander the Sixth, had given to Spain. All of America, North and South, Central America, the Caribbean, all of that was given to Spain by Pope Alexander the Sixth.
Okay, and one more question on the break. So, how was they had some kind of gentleman agreement with the new power, America, and with those colonial powers that America did, since it was a dominant in terms of military might and perhaps economic might, they did conquer those other colonial territories. If you want to, this is America backyard, the Caribbean is America backyard.
Yes.
The Monroe.
The,
They
Mon-
had an agreement, some kind of gentleman
the
agreement.
Monroe, no, there was no gentleman agreement. It was just force of arms. It was, and actually that was in 1898. This was the last of what Spain had held on to in the Caribbean.
I know, I'm not going to get your friend that somebody doesn't want to listen. Right?
All right, thank you.
All right.
Uh-huh. That's it. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'm looking for Josh.
Well, unfortunately, you're going to have to wheel and come again because he's not available right now. I don't know.
Wait, I got your show, Mario.
I think I recognize his voice, but
Yeah, feel free to tell him this Jimmy Weber. Yeah.
well, I am much more familiar with the the older Weber. Well, we used to have big arguments over a place called Calabash. We played music, and he wasn't easy. We used to tell him, but how you so good as a volunteer for him, mom, when it comes to paying us for playing the music, so you get so tight.
Well, when you're pouring out fire, you're helping. When you're playing, you're helping yourself.
You
I
hear?
think you were just trying to protect me and my two sisters to make sure we eat.
Ah,
I was just like playing music.
beloved,
You are unfair.
you hear this? Is that I didn't know that you were an attorney at law too, my son, because that's how you sounded here. And I yield.
Spend my mind.
Well, I yield, and I said, try and call him again, but he's not here now. And I got another call coming in. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Brother Mario.
Good afternoon to you. Very familiar voice.
Happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
Let the day go by.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I hope you had a blessed day and without too much stress.
It was the date itself was good, and the family did well by me and so forth. But it's just, I guess the days leading up to it caused me to get a little bit nostalgic, and this is what I'm sharing here with uh, a beloved audience, that I had a lot of thoughts about how things used to be here, and a lot of things that I learned from a man that I love dearly. They used to call him Boss Bro. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
Boss
Yeah, I
Bro.
remember.
Yeah, well, Boss Bro, uh, taught me a lot of, well, a lot of the things that I advocate for nowadays, you know, came from, uh, well, learning from his meat, because he was, in my eyes anyhow, he was quite a man, quite a man.
Yes, sir. The days are so much different from what it used to be,
Well, there you are.
especially here in St. Croix.
There you are. And someone, we talk about Boss Bro. They don't make them like Boss Bro, you know, Boss Pete. I mean,
Yes,
they don't make them like that anymore. And that is why
of
it
course not.
is why it's so disappointed to me. And I say, not with any disrespect, but just characterizing them as they are. They're good for not mislead us. I mean, how could you be so, I mean, ignorant about what our ancestors went through here, so that you could have the privilege of being a governor, a delegate, a senator, and it's just sad. It's just sad to me.
Listen, when I left here in early 60s,
Yeah,
I thought I had left this place in good hands.
yeah,
But coming back home, I don't know what happened to this place.
yeah. When
I really
you
can't
left,
tell.
you left just at the point where we were falling off the cliff into the abyss, the 60s.
So you think it's my fault, right?
Yes, you should have been able to hold us up.
I should have stayed here, right?
Yes, we
Yeah,
definitely
my
needed
own
you.
fault. Yes. Well, I'm gonna wait to hear the question. You know, your station is cutting out like every other word that you say.
Oh wow.
And when people call in, the volume is very low, so you can hardly hear what they are saying to you.
Well, and
So,
I'm here alone. My boss is just upset. I don't know where he is, when he'll be back, so that I could
maybe
make
that's
him
it.
aware of this, that something is wrong. But hey,
And when you call the other line, it says leave a message.
wow. Well,
So a lot of people can't get in. So anyway, Mario, enjoy the rest of your 86th birthday.
thank you.
All right.
Thank you so
Take
much.
care now.
All righty.
Okay.
Uh, well, yes, beloved. Uh, Leading up to my birthday, which was Sunday, uh, it just so happened I, you know, had a kind of nostalgic few days there. I guess realizing that I was one of the fortunate ones to be able to have an 86th birthday, because, beloved, the many that I grew up with here, went to school with, and all this kind of things, they're gone. Right? Let's see if this call would come true in this. Good afternoon.
So Mario tell me the whole town of Frederickston plus Yucca was ablaze and Sunday there.
Enough, lad. Enough, man. That's like that.
Oh, why not? Okay? You just like to take it easy and you're 86.
That's about it, yes.
Yeah, okay, well, God continue to bless you with more healthy and prosperous years.
Yes.
Um, Mario, the situation with this trip, I don't know if I should call it a junket, maybe would be the better word, to Accra, continues to bother me because it's becoming more and more disgusting, scandalous, maybe. I mean, there's amount of things that you've seen that they presented in the World Wide Web, a picture that somebody took of the governor and his entourage that says it was AI generated. You could have seen the people, the way they're looking, they wasn't looking wrong, they're like mannequin, they're like this. I don't know what AI to do people, but this is what people have been saying on the talk shows, you know?
Oh, okay.
And I am waiting for them to put out the cost of what it took for 12, 15 people. I know what it cost me to have gone to Nigeria and to Ghana. So unless they give them this convoy came down to $0 per person, then the cost has to be very high. So the question is why? Why? WHY?
Well,
So just say,
the simplest, straightforward answer I could give you is because we, the electorate, were foolish enough to give him and his friends the opportunity to do as they will, and this is what they're doing. They're enjoying their life because we we gave them that opportunity. Uh,
Mario, and you're right, that would be the perfect answer. Because I was made to understand that some people in his cabinet are considered to be senior, not by age, not by necessarily by money they make, but somehow he classified them as senior. He offered them to go and they refused. Of course, that makes them now suspect in his eyes, and they would be simply pushed aside, like he does with anyone that dare to oppose him.
no,
I don't know where this young man got this power and tenacity to do what he's doing. On other talk shows, he likes to go on there and say, well, he's a Sappy. You probably know his grandfather, Sappy Pilgrim. You listen to this first name, where they call him Sappy Pilgrim, Terrace, so on and so forth, so on.
I know Pilgrim first from playing music there.
Yeah.
We would I played with vibratones and we would go over and we'd have classes with Milo and the Kings versus vibratones from St. Thomas.
Oh, yeah.
Pilgrim
Mario,
Service.
I dance to vibrato music many places in St. Croix too.
Well, there you are.
But the thing is this: family members are telling this governor to stop invoking his grandfather name because he ain't no Sappy Pilgrim. They even telling his grandfather, Sappy, was a contractor. He built a lot of the homes back in the day. And they also tell him to stop use his father's name, Albert Bryan Senior, who was a banker. Junior, you are no Albert Bryan. You are no Safi Silver.
Well,
Mario,
he thinks he's much more than they are because we gave him that crown. We gave him that pedestal to stand on.
What could I say again? But you're right. He doesn't have. You know what? Yeah, I can talk that.
That's right.
So what? Mario, to change the subject quickly, and then I will go. You mentioned about a while ago you was talking, and while you was talking, the name Ian Smith came to my mind. You remember Ian Smith? Where Ian Smith get his power that he used up in Rhodesia?
South Africa.
Yeah. There was this, and of course, Eric Williams from Trinidad or Guyana.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, these guys, I don't know if they were self-anointed, self-appointed, gave themselves power or what. But the ones that you were talking about that separated these Portugal, I think, and España, I think that's what they were talking about.
When we're talking about actually that it was the Vatican, it was actually Pope Alexander VI. He was from Iberia, and so he divided the world, between his fellow Iberians, Spain and Portugal.
But Mario, did he have a license to do that?
His license was the Vatican.
Oh.
He was the at that day they referred to him as the universal monarch. The universal monarch.
This monarchy thing, Donald Trump, but does have used the word monarch.
Well, hey, again, the thing is, once here as an electorate, we give him that power. I mean, we got to wait for another election to take it back.
Okay, then. Well, it's a shame that we have to wait that long. Why don't we do it like they do in other countries, Mario?
Well, it did in Puerto Rico. I mean, they were united, and they actually got Rosselló to resign and leave office.
You use the word united. That tells me then that we are not united.
That's correct.
We will get united one of these days. But let me go by saying this, and I hope and pray the Catholics, of which we have a lot in the Virgin Islands, black ones, don't get mad with me. There's something circulating on the World Wide Web about the Catholics back in the day, the big regime, how they used to kill black people. And I asked myself, well, if this is so, why yet and still there's so much Catholicism or Catholics in a small place like Bintama, Virgin Islands? I guess the fact that them and those that are still Catholics are still alive, so it doesn't matter that others were slaughtered. Mario,
take care of yourself. Thank you. All right. Yes, beloved, I'm hesitant here because once you made it clear that the transmission is interrupted and you're only hearing some of my words, like you said, every third word or something like that is missing. But unfortunately, I am on my own, and I do not have the expertise to do anything about it. And even if I did, I couldn't just leave the microphone and go off somewhat to deal with some of the equipment. So, beloved, I am left here to try to well, give you enlightening information, but I guess I'm reluctant, somewhat hesitant because you already made it known that the transmission is not clear. So here we are, and beloved, we just said that hopefully we'll be able to do better. Here they say we're gonna. Let me try this. Good afternoon.
Yeah, I was just wanting to let you know I can hear you both on the radio, the internet very clear. It's your callers that sometimes I can barely hear them, and
Oh,
I can hear them better on the internet than on the radio. But of late, I can hear the callers better I can hear them on the radio clearly now. But I switched radio, so I don't know if it's that the signal is coming in better or if it's because of my radio. but they can't just say, people should be hearing you clearly, and potentially they could be hearing your callers now clearly. But before it was a whisper, you really have to turn the volume up and listen carefully to hear the callers.
all right.
But in the last maybe 5 to 10 minutes, it may have gotten better. But as I said, I switched radio, so I don't know if it's your signal or it's just
I hear you. I hear you now, but I appreciate your call and well your clarification, at least from your point of view. So
Right. Right. So at least some people should be hearing and potentially your callers now.
will do.
You're not speaking in vain.
I hope not, but I will do my best.
Right.
Thank you.
All right. I'll continue listening.
All righty. Well, beloved, let us then once again lift the curtains off of 1925, 100 years ago. And because we are not exposed to our history or the history of our ancestors, we know, I was going to say, very little, but it's worse than that. We know hardly anything at all about our history and the lives of our ancestors 100 years ago. And let me just point out to you that, beloved, what in a few years became known as the Great Worldwide Recession, with the crash of the American stock market in October of 1929, this is when it is popularly known that there was a major depression in the United States and for that matter in the world. Well, beloved, sad to have to say to you that here on this 84 square mile island of St. Croix, we were living in a recession before the stock market crash of 1929. And we must remember that our economy was based on agriculture. The agriculture of sugarcane, growing sugarcane to produce sugar, growing sugarcane to produce molasses, and then, of course, the molasses to produce rum. And that is where you can perhaps have a better understanding of why we here on the island of St. Croix were experiencing a recession, actually a depression, years before the stock market crashed in 1929. You see, the United States enacted a law popularly known as prohibition. This law prohibited the manufacture, the distillation, the sale, and the consumption of alcohol, alcoholic beverages, liquor. And beloved, the impact that that had on our sugarcane economy was severe. All our sugarcane factories went bankrupt. And as we pointed out earlier, at this time, the biggest sugarcane factory on St. Croix was located in Lower Love. That's on the north side of Queen Mary Highway between the Department of Agriculture and that supermarket that used to be known as Plaza Extra West, and it's now called the Market. That, beloved, is where the Lower Love Sugar Factory was established and functioning up until 1925. Matter of fact, if you happen to be driving anywhere in that area, just look up and you can still see the chimney rising out of the bushes there in Lower Love. That was the factory, and it was operated by this white man that we knew as Captain Blackwood. And beloved, it is good that we have a boss because I can now urge you to lick your cream because some ice cream is just so good for your soul. And we are doing our best to inform, enlighten you as to, well, just how different life for our ancestors were on this 84 square mile island 100 years ago. And we're just trying to point out that, beloved, because our colonizers, as Washington, D.C., United States of America, they enacted this law called prohibition. It had a severe impact on St. Croix and the agricultural economy of St. Croix, which growing sugarcane, crushing the sugarcane to produce sugar and molasses. And it so happened, beloved, that prohibition struck at the heart of our economy. And before you know it, one after the other, sugar factories were closing. And we had maybe a half a dozen factories operated in St. Croix at the time, from what today is Wapa Power Plant in Richmond. That was a sugar factory. From that, we refer to the east, to the LaGrange sugar factory operated by the Hagamans. Well, beloved, this is the time when, as we pointed out just before the break, Captain Blackwood was operating the largest sugar factory in Lower Love. But the size of it did not prevent it from being impacted by that law called prohibition. And it so happened that, beloved, I couldn't tell you exactly what date, what month, but if not 1925, it'd be 1926. But St. Croix was left without any sugar factories operated. All bankrupt. And here you have thousands of acres of sugarcane growing and no way to make use of all of the sugar cane because all the factories are bankrupt and closed, with the exception, if I recall correctly, of a small portion of the factory in LaGrange that was crushing and making cane juice out of the nearby sugarcane acreage. But, beloved, that was nothing more than a drop in a bucket or a bucket in the sea. It was a disaster, and our people were in a very desperate situation as we approached 1930, where we had the opportunity, beloved, of actually having one, so I could recall his name. I think we knew him as Howard Brown. You may or may not have heard of the Brown report to the Secretary of the Department of Interior. Beloved, I think I earlier said that it's not hyperbolic, not at all hyperbole to refer to our situation as desperate. Well, Mr. Brown of the Bureau of Efficiency was asked to give a report to the Secretary of Interior as to what can be done. Because this now is a desperate condition of an island that would have the President of the United States, one Herbert Hoover, referred to it as what is it he said it was? I don't remember the words now. But beloved, St. Croix in particular was known as a disaster. And Mr. Howard Brown made his report to the Secretary of Interior that to this day, I can't explain to myself or to anyone why it is that we didn't make use of it. Because the Brown Report, which was recorded in the St. Thomas newspaper, called Emancipator. And that newspaper reported that the Brown Report said that homesteading could make St. Croix self-supporting. And this is reported by Rothschild Francis. Good afternoon.
Yeah, Mario, the one you were looking for, was it a poorhouse?
Oh, no. Again, thank you for reminding me. President Hoover said that St. Croix was the the poorhouse, an effective poorhouse of the Caribbean. An effective poorhouse were the words that he used.
Okay.
An effective poorhouse.
Now, why did he say that?
Well, see, this is what I'm saying at the time. And I guess he didn't want to admit to that. But the law that was passed called Prohibition that allowed for, reporters and novelists, are regarded as it was the roaring 20s in the United States of America, because this is the time when now all of these gangsters like Dillinger, Al Capone, and whatnot, they are making a living out of prohibition, because now liquor is illegal.
Yeah, but let me ask you along that line. What year was it then that the Kennedys and the Paiwanskis made their killing out of the prohibition?
Well, this is the time we're talking about here now. With,
okay, the same time. Okay.
Yes, this is the time here. This prohibition lasted for a decade. Throughout the 1920s, and it came on in 1930. And this is when now, rejoicing, St. Croix was making now government house run. And this is the only time in history that will tell you that where a government, a United States government, state or federal, could make a liquor. But yes,